Prepare for Impact, the EU's Energy Transition. Interview with Miroslav Lopour, Episode 42. Welcome to the My Energy 2050 podcast, where we speak to the people building a clean energy system by 2050. I'm your host, Michael LaBelle. This week, we speak with Miroslav Lopour. He is a senior manager of the Energy and Resources team at Deloitte Czech Republic. We have a wide-ranging discussion about how the Czech Republic is preparing for the energy transition. What you'll learn from our conversation is a unique perspective on the EU's eastern member states. I found Miroslav has the ability to express in a precise manner both the social and political resistance and reluctance to participate in the energy transition. As you'll hear in our discussion about the coming electric car revolution, Miroslav articulates why there is reluctance in the country to move away from the internal combustion engine and even coal. He discusses an inherent conservatism in former communist countries, which makes politicians and society reluctant to fully participate in a clean energy transition. I think our conversation provides an in-depth understanding of this reluctance to change, not just in the Czech Republic, but in the broader region of Eastern Europe. If I can think of one reason you should listen to our discussion today, is to understand why certain countries are slow on the uptake and deployment of policies and technologies that do deliver a clean energy system. There is justification for why countries move slow. Understanding the reason can assist in developing policies and help us all transition to a cleaner future, not just a few countries. As I mentioned, we discuss a range of topics, but threaded through our conversation is the difficulty to change industry and technologies. Regardless of the reluctance, as Miroslav points out, the money from the EU is here and ready to fund the transition. Therefore, the Czech Republic is about to ramp up their activities and join in on the transition. I think our conversation is an important milestone. We need to revisit the expectations expressed in this interview in a few years. Let's see if what the EU is promising in retooling industry and assisting people in regions to move away from coal, for example, does have a positive impact. I'm a bit skeptical on this. More money? I don't know. The intent of the My Energy 2050 podcast is to spread the knowledge about how the energy system can assist our transition towards a greener future. And now, for this week's episode. I'm here today with Miroslav Lopour. He's a senior manager of energy and resources at Deloitte in the Czech Republic. He has 9 years of experience in corporate energy strategies, energy efficiency, and what we're going to be talking about today as well is electric mobility. So Miroslav, thank you for joining me today.
Hello, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. And I first want to say thank you to Lucia Krajcovicova because she introduced us and she works here with you in Deloitte.
Yeah, that's correct. She's our new joiner for this year.
Yes. So, and she's actually, I need to say too, a former student of mine. So a graduate of Central European University. Miroslav, to start off, I want to ask you a basic question, but how did you and why did you become interested in energy?
Yeah, I think it's a long story and I don't want to bother this interview with it. But basically, I think it was couple of coincidences during my I would say student times. I had an internship in one of the biggest companies here in Czech for a distribution company, and the second coincidence was when I was traveling on Erasmus. I also had some kind of diploma work, and I decided to work with Vattenfall with it on mergers and acquisitions. And when I was looking for a job for the first time, I kind of missed the first interview here in Deloitte, and the second one was energy. So that's how I became an energy expert.
But you had this basis in Czech and Vattenfall.
But it was just a broad internship, nothing really serious. But I think it finally counted. So it's important.
And then you went to university, or this is university kind of interplayed with these.
Yeah, it was a summer job between I think third and fourth year on the university, and the second episode was even later. So it was part of the studies.
And for the university, what did you study?
I'm originally international trade master here in a School of Economics Prague, and my second degree is in finance, also a master degree.
Okay, is that the school that's right across the street?
Yes, it's right across the street. That's correct.
Okay, so you haven't really moved far in life.
No, actually, we couple of years moved here back from Karlin, which is like 10 minutes walk from here. So, but nothing really new.
Okay. But your job has changed, of course, and
Yeah.
and since you're in the area of energy and resources, everything is changing constantly.
When I was joining energy business, I kind of thought about it as a stable business, or everybody was telling, okay, that's the anti-cyclical business, stable economy, etc., etc. And since I joined, I think that everybody is like changing so rapidly and not sure about what comes, that it never counts again.
Yes, and when you were at Vattenfall, you said you worked with mergers and acquisitions. Like, about what time period was that?
I don't remember correctly, but I think it was 2011. But I was only working here on the paper, on the diploma paper. So I was kind of interviewing Vattenfall, how they are thinking about their acquisitions, because at that time they were moving out of Poland, selling all those coal power plants, and it was kind of bold move at that time.
Yeah, because at that time the privatization process was over, and then it was kind of like a period of rejigging, like selling their assets and moving out.
I think at our region, everybody was buying and trying to grow, trying to expand, and trying to grab the assets for the cheap price. But what was interesting on the Vattenfall move, that they were selling the coal assets with a loss, which at that time was not a very, very common. And the basic reason was try to go away from a unstable market, which Poland certainly is in energy, and try to get rid of the coal assets.
Okay.
So, and for us, I think today is a normal music of the day.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, how forward thinking they were.
I would say yes, but I think they were a couple of years ahead, and the loss they made on that time, I think, was not reasonable. But I think they wouldn't be able to pick up the right time. So yeah, I think it was a good move at the time.
Oh, that's a really interesting topic then. Okay, and then so you've seen a lot of these changes over the years in the region from. Okay, not privatization process yourself, but the post, we could say, privatization period, and then thinking now, maybe we move into the Czech Republic a bit more in the energy mix here, because it's nuclear and coal, lignite. I didn't differentiate how much lignite is in the system.
I think if we are referring to the coal in Czech Republic, it's mostly lignite. It's 85%, and the 15% is steam coal.
Okay.
And but both are mined here.
Okay, and the really bad stuff is the lignite.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, maybe for some coal is just bad across the board, but lignite's really, really bad. It's like unfiltered cigarettes.
Yeah, I think so. The same, but for us, it's the backbone of the energy system. So we are a bit more conservative. We are not deep in it as Poland, for example, is, but certainly it's a topic. It's a big topic.
And what are the plans for phasing out lignite and coal in general?
If we are speaking about the coal as general, there's at 2038, but it's mostly for lignite, for the mining and use in the energy mix. It's a decision of the governmental committee, but it's not approved by the government, so it's a bit tricky. But it's 2038, and I think the situation will develop a bit quicker and itself in the market, because currently the coal is or was in a big economical trouble. So everybody is thinking about phasing out more quickly, and for the steam coal, I think it will be even quicker, because I think our mines will close up in 2022 or 3 or something. It's very close.
Okay. So there's not a lot of. I mean, because it's important to differentiate between the Czech Republic and Poland, where in Poland there's a lot of resistance to closing these or not using coal, but in the Czech Republic there's an acceptance that this needs to be phased out. Or
Again, I think it's a bit general, but there's an acceptance. I think it's broader. I would say it's an industry consensus that the coal will have to be phased out. It will have to be maybe phased out quicker because of the market. There's a large debate, but I think the debate is already somehow won. So I think now it's how and when, rather than do we want to do it or not.
Mm-hmm. And in the area of nuclear power, because nuclear power is also a big component, what is the discussion there?
Again, that's a very difficult topic because I think the nuclear power debate goes on from 2000 when we finished the Temelin, which is our second nuclear power plant, and in 2012 there was a discussion to build new blocks there, 2 new blocks. It was frozen for a couple of years. Now it's resurfaced. Government is moving in. The plan is currently to build a new reactor in 2036, I think. But there's a lot of question, a lot of work, so it's still a question.
Okay. So, but if the coal is cut down, what's going to replace it? Because now the renewable energy sources, we'll just say that in general, is like 7%. So it's very low. What do they expect to?
Again, that's a very complicated topic because the coal will stay here for 10 years. I would guess for 10 years, and the backbone is certainly still there. So we have time for the transition. The new nuclear should come in 2035 or 6. I think it's a reasonable timing. It is achievable if we really want. Then that's the question, if we really want. And until then, we also have a very good base of those 2 nuclear power plants which are in operation. The one will be phasing out in 2037. Until then, we have time to rebuild, and we will be certainly rebuilding to renewables and maybe to gas, but the gas is the question. But the renewables, I can't imagine a scenario where the renewables won't be built.
Mm-hmm. So there's quite a lot of space. I mean, not in the country, but because it's only 7% now, so get up to 30%. A lot can be done that's quite affordable.
Certainly there's a huge space. We've run a study, I think you are able to find it on the internet, 2 years ago when we were kind of putting a prognosis that we are built up to 9 gigawatts of new renewables. Mostly of it will be photovoltaics, large scale photovoltaics, something like 7 gigawatts, and we are hoping to get 1.5 gigawatt of wind. But for the wind, again, I would be a bit skeptical because it's a tough energy source to be built.
For public resistance?
Yeah, definitely for the public reason, and I think here the resistance is even stronger than for the photovoltaics.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we stay away from that. We can talk about coal all day, but maybe the public resistance around wind is harder to work with because there's so many unknowns at the local level. Maybe just to finish this out, at the national level, is there a lot of push for wind, or just it's probably quite connected to the local?
I think we as Central Europeans are very conservative in how we see the future, and I think it actually translates quite well into the energy business. And we are very skeptical about the new technologies, even though they are proven. We can be speaking all day how proven they are, but I think that the normal, typical citizen is very skeptical, very conservative, and it's very tough politically to push those through, and especially the wind farms, because that's a big change in the landscape, big change how you see your country, and even for us, where the biggest potential is in the mountains, where I think we kind of use the idea that it's a new nature after those acid rains and all those stuff when we were bombarded by those news for 2 decades. Having an idea that something new will be built there is kind of I would say heresy. I would say even.
Yeah, and maybe what's the environmental movement? Is this connected to the environmental movement or not? This is more society in general.
I would say it's more society as a general. I don't think we have a strong environmental movement. It's certainly loud. It's certainly to be seen. It's seen to in the coal debate, in maybe also in nuclear, but from different perspective. But here, I think it's a general understanding how you would like your country to be seen.
Okay.
And that's not part of it.
When it comes to the conservativeness in society in Central Europe, because I think from my experience in Hungary and Poland and other countries, it's actually quite a good description. How does that translate into the energy policies that governments can do?
I think it translates into the energy policy quite a lot. It slows it down almost to the glacier movements. I think, what we've done in the policy side or on the legislation side is almost nothing for the last 10 years, or near to nothing. I don't want to be too pushy, but we could be definitely more ambitious, more pushing. Even the debate could be led in a different, I would say, tone or mood, because the conservativeness slows us down almost to nothing. So I think that the boldest movements are still ahead of us. Or I would say the market will surprise us how quickly those changes can be made.
And how, from the EU perspective, maybe the policy agenda coming from the European Union, this includes the Parliament and the Commission, and the changes over time, and especially these goals like 2035, 2050, how is that being translated within the market in the Czech Republic?
I think we are pushing against this trend, sometimes actively, sometimes passively, but we are just, in the last 10 years, I think we were doing just enough to supply the required targets, to promote the new sources, to grant subsidies. So we are moving very, very slowly, and on the market side, we are moving slowly. On the political side, the debate is, I would say, almost the same for the 10 years. But there are some changes, there are some green routes, but it will take time. But there's so much money for the next 10 years that, again, the market will show us that it can change very quickly, and the money will speak.
When you say the money, is that EU money, or is that...
it's the EU money, the subsidies, the Modernization Fund, and all those billions of euros.
Okay, that scares me, actually. So, and where do you... Maybe you're involved in this as a consultancy. Are there ideas where this money is going to go and what the companies need to do to qualify for this?
Certainly. I would say that the EU legislation actually provides quite a good framework for that, and for that reason we are even changing. So good, bless that. And the biggest mover will be the Modernization Fund, which is actually designed for transition from coal to renewables and modern energy. And for us, it's a tool for modernizing all those coal heating sources, coal power plants, and building those renewables like photovoltaic. So the program is actually launched. Now it's collecting the first binding bids. The money there are sufficient for a large transition. So we are kind of hoping that it will start in a good way. But certainly, again, next 10 years, I think, will be very dramatically changing. So I can imagine that the fund will transform twice or even 3 times during this decade. So I think we will start somewhere, but I really believe that the future will be a bit different. More wind, more hydrogen, and stuff like that.
I really like to talk about society. And my question then is, with this money coming from the EU and the social conservatism in society, what is the impact, or what is the idea of how this money can benefit coal regions now or in the future?
I think there are two sides to this question. First one is how the society will see it. And I'm really glad that most of this debate is very technical, very energy oriented, so it kind of bypasses the typical person, typical voter, and typical citizen. So I think nobody really sees those opportunities on the ground level, which I think for a certain level is good. The second question to this is the coal regions itself, because the biggest beneficiary will be those coal regions, certainly because most of the coal industry is there. The transformation is focused on those. And there's also a Just Transition Fund, which is the second leg of the transition, which is, I would say, 6 times smaller than the Modernization Fund. So it's tiny in comparison, but it's more focused on society, on those trends of new industries, which certainly will transform those regions away from energy to a different industries.
Mm-hmm. So there's money for, and we don't want to go down there. I'm just guessing, like money for retraining and infrastructure development.
Yes, that's the original idea of this Just Transition Fund. I think each of those regions has a different strategy. It's a local strategy. So I think it's actually very suited to those politicians, those people in those regions to kind of bring their own vision. And I've seen details of 2 plans here in Czech Republic. One is more focused on touristic history of the region, building some kind of cultural things. The second is more focused on new industries like hydrogen, like batteries. We will see how it will play out, but the transformation will be big.
Okay. And maybe then we kind of move on to the transformation itself, actually. And you mentioned hydrogen. I didn't ask you this before, but what does hydrogen look like in the Czech Republic? Is there some, or you don't know about this? But
we are really at the beginning.
Okay, at the beginning.
But in the past, I never seen such an interest in one single topic as hydrogen in the last, I would say, 6 months.
Yes.
Everybody is asking about hydrogen, how the hydrogen future will look like, how much it cost, what's the development, what's the market. So it's a big topic, and I think it will be a big transformation again.
It's kind of like the gas topic 10 years ago or something.
Certainly.
Maybe we could move to maybe the Czech industry itself and how well it's positioned for even electric cars, battery production. Overall, what is the industry doing in this area?
I would start maybe from the automotive itself, because the Czech Republic is very strong on the automotive. We have 500,000 employees in the automotive sector. Most of it is in supply chain, but we also have, I think, 5 factories for assembling of those cars. Basically, we are a car nation, and it's a big topic how the EV will play out with this, because it's certainly a high risk that quite a lot of this industry will be lost, that there's a huge adaptation ahead of us. So again, as we are very conservative, even our politicians are kind of pushing against those changes, but I think it's inevitable. And again, we've run a study last month about the battery production, and in that study we kind of were trying to persuade the business here that the change for batteries is inevitable, and everybody else is trying to get into this industry. So we have to be there also, otherwise the game will be lost and the industry will move somewhere else. Basically, you are active in the Central European region, and Poland already has the factory for batteries. Hungary has 2. Yeah. There are plans for different ones. Germany is building a number of them. And we have the opportunity to have our own factory, quite a big one, in 5 years, and that's a huge opportunity which we should not miss.
So in 5 years, but the other countries are ahead. Is there a race for battery, or is there so much? There's going to be so much of a need for the supply of batteries that it's not a problem.
I think the right answer is both. Our study actually finds out that in 2035, when the current Fit for 55 bans the sales of in combustion engines, the demand will be huge. So the market is still open. The new entrants could freely build their factories. The demand will be growing since 2025, so the risk is not that big. Everybody is chasing to build those because even the car companies has to secure their supply for the coming decade. So it's really a race. But those who will be there, who will have the first, I would say, small factories can expand into the larger one. Imagine Tesla. Tesla built a first gigafactory, which was supposed to be 1 gigawatt hours of production. Now they are expanding, and now the gigafactory is actually a multi-gigawatt factory. Now we are talking about factories with production of 30 to 40 gigawatt hours per year, which is an enormous step. So the market is there, but the factories are actually getting bigger. So you have to be quick.
We're talking about this energy transition, and I'm just wondering, in one area we haven't spoken about, then we just spoke about coal regions and the redevelopment that's necessary and the money going into those regions. And as we're learning now, electric cars do require less parts, therefore less workers, and this is a big problem in Germany as well. What would be the impact then on for jobs? And I guess there's no holding back electric vehicles, but how can this transition be smoothed out? Or
I think that's the current debate, or actually the point we are trying to make here in Deloitte for this year's. It's try to make this two trends, the coal phase out and I would say new business or new opportunities, linked together as much as possible, because that actually gives you the space to transfer those, I would say, even very skilled workers from the coal industry, either from the power plants or from the mines, into the new businesses, either renewables, battery production, and those stuff. If you look into the auto industry, it will be more difficult, because I think the transition there have to be even bigger, because one thing is to produce the batteries. That's also a requirement of skilled labor, but it's a different skills than in the typical production of parts. And the parts we are currently producing are very different from what the EVs need in the future. So the transformations there will have to be bigger. So try to align those two forces as much as possible, and then I think you are safe. If not, you are in a huge risk. Part of it is education, but again, it depends how we see the education. Typically, you would see the education for the young ones ending at 20 or 24 on the university. But I think for here, we are more speaking about education of already skilled workers. We have to reskill them, try to make them more flexible, maybe adjust their skills from, I would say, very different industries. Let's imagine someone who's on the assembly line for a car and then goes for the assembly of the batteries. It's a completely different kind of skills and like knowledge you need for those industries. So I think it's possible, but it will bring a different education than what we typically see under it.
Mm-hmm. And so there's, I'm just thinking EU money, national money that's necessary, and then the societal kind of buy-in of this as well, even by the workers themselves that are facing to lose their jobs. I was wondering, maybe we can look at the current problems in the energy sector and discuss this as also part of the transition. And is this a warning for things to come, that people, companies have to be much more adaptive to disruptions?
I'm a bit worried there, because as I said, I'm an economist, I can see change during the centuries, and it doesn't scare me. But there's one difference between now and then. Now, if you look on where we are on the transition from the Soviet era, from the old thinking, I would say, to the new thinking, we are somewhere in the middle. We are kind of disappointed at how the change went, what the results brought, but there's also one important factor. We have very low unemployment, and we have scarcity of well-educated, well-trained, and people with vision. And for those transition, there will be enormous need of those experts with vision, with willingness to move forward, to don't look back, look forward, and step ahead. So I think this is the biggest risk of the transition. It's not the sources, it's not the feasibility, it's the people, and it's the mindset. And I think here, if I would have only one single shot to give to the politicians what they should do, they should prepare the people for the transition and try to, I would say, ignite bravery, because that's what we need, and the rest is there basically.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a really important point you bring on, that the politicians have to prepare the people for this, but there's also a lot of room for politicians to take advantage of the people and say this is too costly of a transition.
Too costly or too risky. As I said, we are already against the electric cars. We, as the biggest producer of cars, are against the new trend in car industry, and that actually always brings me: do you want to create a steam engine for or an electric engine for the railways? That's a question. If you would stick up with the first, I think you will be making nice creations, nice technology, but it's obsolete. And I think we have to move away from that. And again, I think that's the hardest step. I think that's the next step of our transition to, I would say, to the Western economy. We have to move away from what's proven and move to uncharted waters.
Yeah, I really like your comparison of the train, of the steam engine, because if you go to like a train museum, right, you see these massive steam engines that were produced towards the end, right? Then they were phased out because of diesel. But that's it, right? They knew how to make these steam engines and do so in a really big scale. They were really big, but then the diesel just displaced them.
Yeah,
new technology.
I agree. It's a fascinating technology. The steam engine. Always, I'm without speech when I see those monstrous machines. But do you want them to be on the tracks today? Yes, once a year. But I want to get there as fast as possible, and for that, I want to have a TGV or something like that. It's a completely different mindset.
Yes. So you got to come to Budapest, and I'll take you to the train museum there. There's probably one here, isn't there? Or yeah. Okay. There's a really good one in Budapest. So
okay.
Maybe we'll get Deloitte to sponsor a study of steam engines and the phase with diesel. So maybe it's more a historical book, maybe, rather than a consulting document. But still, it's a great point, I think. Things. My question is, what about energy efficiency? And this is not as an interesting topic, or I don't know, as big as, producing steam engines and this transition and electric cars. But what about the investment into energy efficiency in buildings or even by industry?
Even for myself, who did a couple of energy efficiency projects during the time, it's not a big topic, and I think it's heavily overlooked, especially here in Czech Republic. It requires small changes by basically everyone, and again, it's touched upon the nature, whether you want to do it or not. So you have to persuade quite a lot of people, and I think we are missing that here. That it's not common to think in those topics when you are, for example, talking about insulation of buildings with normal people. They say, okay, I don't care, it costs too much, it doesn't bring that much value. It doesn't bring that much value, but it brings constant value through quite a long time. and I think we are missing that point. But again, I don't want to be that pessimistic. The market is actually changing slowly. Everybody is kind of insulating on their own, and the photovoltaics are going back to the rooftops. New boilers are installed every year, so it's a slower process, less visible. It's there. It could be definitely more promoted, more pushed by the politicians or people themselves, but it's there and it's moving.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this spike in gas prices and electricity prices in Europe will push more or make people realize more the benefits and the cost benefits in energy efficiency?
Certainly, even a couple of our clients were very surprised with the spike in prices, either electricity or gas. I would say it's with hanging trousers around your ankles. It's that metaphor really at that point. And now everybody's chasing the gas and electricity on the market to have it supplied next year, which is in 8 weeks or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But apart from that, they realize they are very dependent. So in the next topic on their list is local power sources, local heat sources like photovoltaics, CHP, and stuff like that. I think the insulation and stuff, which is, I would say, focus on the buildings will come later, but now is the right time to actually promote it. All the arguments that it's costly, it doesn't pay back so quickly, it's difficult. Now the topic is over. It's either you have it or you don't.
So they're looking much more local, not using imported gas for their production.
Yes, I think they realize that they are very very dependent on the market, on the external forces. And if you are a producer of car parts, we already talked about it, you don't want to care about your energy. You want to have your energy fixed forever. Yes. And now they find out that their energy is not fixed and they have to really take care about it, and they don't want to.
Well, that's really scary. I mean, if you're a car parts manufacturer, right, essentially you have a contract for your parts, how much you're gonna get paid for it, but then their price of energy goes up.
Yeah, your profits is gone.
The profits are gone.
And that's the leitmotif for those 2 months. And nobody really knows what's the profitability for next year. Not because the Skoda is not working again, but because the prices are so high that you are not competitive anymore.
Mm-hmm. And maybe more broadly, and maybe I'm not sure if this is your area or not, but the supply chain disruption, maybe we could talk about gas as a whole. You know, how is that impacting the Czech Republic? They're able to, as a former ComCon country, maybe I'll phrase it that way, they were able to import gas from the Soviet Union. And now with LNG, I'm assuming in Poland, what is how are they getting gas into the country now?
I would start with one of the professors told me, oil is about money, gas is about politics. And I think this quote actually underlines it quite well. I don't think that now or in 2021 it actually matters whether we are Germany or Czech Republic. You have the same rules of the play, which is the gas market of Europe. And as we see on the prices, currently there's a huge distress, and the distress is because the Russians are not supplying that well, or are kind of playing out the long game. There's a rumor that there are Russian leased gas storages in Europe which are empty. For example, our Czech Republic supplier has the gas storage filled up to 90%. So where's the distress coming from? I don't blame the allowances for the high prices. It's certainly gas, only gas. And the question is how long it will take. But also the correct answer is Europe enjoyed low prices of gas for a decade at least. We were not competing with Asia. So Now we are on par, and the question is how much you want to be dependent on external suppliers. Europe is always dependent on gas suppliers from outside, either Russia, Algeria, or even Norway, if we count it as a European Union. So we have to do more, and I think the last decade shows us that we have to move quicker, because a lot of projects is on paper but are still not commissioned yet.
Gas projects,
either LNG terminals, either interconnections, and all those stuffs.
But there's two schools of thoughts. We should stop building gas infrastructure, but you're saying actually these infrastructure projects need to be realized and we have to finish them quickly.
I think the interesting point here is, and I was trying to show it to the gas infrastructure players 2 or 3 years ago, is for gas you have time, I think, till 2035. After that, the gas should be dead if you want to move to 2050 zero emissions. So you have limited time to use your infrastructure, maybe redevelop it in future for, I don't know, green gas or hydrogen. So you are in a tough situation how to develop the infrastructure in a way that it actually pays you off and brings the desired benefit on the market. But I'm skeptical about why we haven't moved forward is, for example, why don't we have the connection with Poland and Baltics? It's a needed infrastructure from a security point of view, and it's still not online. It will be online, I think, next year or the year after. And the same can be done with Ukraine, with north-south connection in Central Europe. Those lines are still not finished.
Yes. But Hungary is connected to South Stream now, so.
And again, gas is about politics. I think some of those big projects, especially those Russian projects, either Nord Stream, South Stream, or those going via Turkey, are more political than the actual market beneficial. It still has the same source of gas. It doesn't bring you a new gas to the market. LNG brings a new gas to the market. New findings in Israel brings you a new gas into the market, but not the Russian gas via new routes. And that's, I think, something which is lost today. Russia has enough infrastructure to bring additional gas to the Europe. They don't need a new Nord Stream. It's just more convenient for them. That's the only reason why they are pushing for it.
But this Nord Stream, it's showing the exposure of Germany to Russian political. I don't know how to. It shows that Germany is exposed to the politics in Russia.
I think that's a very peculiar thing for us Central Europeans, because we see ties with Eastern hegemons, either Russia or Chinese, as black or white. For Germany, I think it's very gray. I think they are very able to stay strong on the political side, to push Russia where it should be. But on the gas side, if you look deeper and deeper, you find out there's a very strong link between Germans and Russian. There's a Russian-Germans money there. There's a Russian-German politics there. And the industry is also very looking forward for this gas. And, German Energiewende is basically also dependent on new sources of gas. So for us in Central Europe, it doesn't make that much sense.
But is it something that people in Central Europe knew anyways, but maybe the Germans underestimated? Or
I don't think the Germans underestimated it. I think for them it's still available. It's still not that expensive. We have to look at it from a perspective of a German who has a bigger salary than us.
Yes.
I would say 3 or 4 times even. And I think for us, we are still looking on the dependency a bit more. But again, for, I would say, Czech Republic, it was the Nord Stream is a benefit, and I think the political debate was it's a beneficial if you look for Poland or or Ukraine, you would find a completely different picture.
Yeah.
And especially Polish ones.
Yes. Yeah. Bypassing the country.
Yeah.
And not doing something cheaper overland to get to Germany. Yeah. Or even extending the current pipeline there to as was planned. Okay. Miroslav, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we're right on time now. But I have two questions to finish off here. And one is, actually, it's a basic question, and maybe I should have asked it at the beginning. What is the role of a consultancy like Deloitte when you're working with clients? I mean, this is a really broad question. This is why my apologies. I should have asked it at the very beginning. But a lot of my students, for example, kind of think about working for consultancies, or they actually go on, like Lucia, and work for them. And I kind of just know, but maybe from your perspective, working for Deloitte for so long, what is the role of consultancy? How do you see your job?
I would say that the consultancy in energy business is a very specific topic. The consultancy in IT looks completely different. For us, I think there are two big and interesting areas. One is the policy making, when you can be I would say even important player in how the policy will look like and how will the country develop. That's what I find interesting on the energy consultancy and why I'm where I am. And the second topic is helping business to navigate the topics we are discussing. Because from each topic we've mentioned in the last hour, there's enormous opportunities, enormous risks, and those companies don't understand them always in that detail as we do. So you are kind of guide on the trip, and as I said, it's very different than from the consultancy in the IT. But energy has a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We talked about politics, economics, business, so a broad range of issues and specializations, but you kind of have to learn all these different areas to talk about it well.
I think to be proficient in energy really well on the strategical level, you have to understand all those topics. And that's the difficult part, because if you don't know what the policy looks like and what's the politics behind it, it's very hard to give the advice to your client, invest in those, divest those, change your company in this way, because in 2 years it could be completely different.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's great. And my final question is, and this may be a hard one, but I think we've had a really good conversation that leads us up to this, is what kind of energy system do you think we'll see in 2050? And maybe we'll just keep it to the Czech Republic.
Again, I'm a big fan of large European market, which actually gives you the ability to transform it. The biggest flexibility always comes with size and with the infrastructure you've built. So for me, 2050 is a very flexible, much complex system than we have right now, maybe even escaping the understanding of a single person. We are now even moving to IoT and modeling, and I think this will be more important with time. So I see quite a lot of sources, big ones, small ones. I can imagine a backbone of nuclear, but that will be a very big issue for the Western Europe. And flexible renewables, a lot of flexibility in storages, so batteries, hydrogen, maybe other technological parts. So I think the change is diversification, making more ties, more links, and kind of hoping that the bigger system is more resilient than the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right. Well, Miroslav, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me.
It was a pleasure for me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We produce the My Energy 2050 podcast to learn about cutting-edge research and the people building our clean energy system. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please share it. The more we spread our message of the ease of an energy transition, the faster we can make it. You can follow us on LinkedIn, where we are the most active on the My Energy 2050 webpage, or on Twitter and Facebook. I'm your host, Michael LaBelle. Thank you for listening to this week's episode.